A lot of phone calls to take. Big shout out to our producer, Jackson Williams, working hard to get us back up and running with some technical issues. When it rains, it pours. One of those kind of days around here. Titans lose at home 37-27 to the Bengals. Alongside Dr. Kevin Dyson and Zach Lyons, I'm Lucas Panzica. But quickly, before we get to the phones, we pause 10 seconds for station identification. This is 104.5 The Zone. All right, guys, should we try this out?
Let's get it.
Let's do it.
Mike, you're up next on Titans Talkback, presented by Lee Company. Do you hear us?
Yes, I do.
There he is. All right, what you got, Mike?
Well, I'd just like to say that was the ugliest game I've ever seen. 25 penalties. Are you kidding me? But it was two bad teams trying to struggle, two bad coaches trying to struggle. But can I kind of go forward a little bit on where our team was going with Amy Adams-Struck, on what's really going on here with the Tennessee Titans. We have got a new stadium coming. It's $1 billion playpen, just like Jerry World. That you know who that is? Dallas Cowboys. You know, and when was the last time the Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones, won a Super Bowl? That was 28, 29 years ago. You guys were probably not even born yet. Yet we've got Amy Adams-Struck, got her stadium taxpayer funded. So the whole thing about this is money. It's business. She doesn't care if the Tennessee Titans field a team that's Super Bowl bound. She doesn't care. And we're not Super Bowl bound. You saw that today. Everybody saw that today. We're in a 6 to 8 year rebuild if Amy wants to build a Super Bowl team. But she's going to get her stadium. Many more paying venues are going to come out of that stadium, including a Super Bowl, of which the Tennessee Titans are not going to be part of. She's not going to spend the money on players. She's not going to spend the money on Will Levis. She's not going to spend the money on Mason Rudolph. All she cares about is that stadium that's going to bring in huge dollars in future venues.
All right, thanks for the call, Mike. Mike, appreciate the call, man. Look, if Amy Adams-Strunk didn't care about if the field or if the Titans were fielding a winning team, she wouldn't have fired John Robinson when they were 7-5 and leading the division. Yeah. She wouldn't have fired Mike Vrabel last year, which was a decision that not everybody agreed with around the NFL and here in town. And I promise you, she wants the product to be better. The merits of the decisions can be debated, whether or not you agree with certain things, but she's willing to spend, and she does want and need that product to be better for fans to come spend money and go watch games at the new Nissan Stadium. So I do get the frustrations from Mike.
But he also, Mike's a little factually incorrect about she won't spend money on players. I mean, we just seen him spend a buttload of money on players.
More than anybody in the NFL.
I mean, opening up the checkbook hasn't been the problem. It's how the GMs have used the checkbook over the since John Robinson.
Yeah. So, again, fair to be frustrated. Everybody is frustrated right now. But I promise you, Amy Adams-Strunk wants to win as bad as anybody, or otherwise she would not be making the moves she has made over the last few years. Whether or not you agree with those, then, you have the right to your opinion. But Amy Adams-Strunk, I promise you, not happy today leaving Nissan Stadium. Let's go to Michigan coming up next. Hey, Michigan.
Hey, guys. Good evening. Boy, I thought nobody needed a hug worse than Will Levis. Good job, Jackson. You need a hug. Well done. Thanks for doing the Lord's work.
There you go. You're getting a thumbs up from Jackson back there.
To the last caller, I understand the frustration. I was certainly frustrated watching Levis throw passes that if I threw them in Madden, I would get mad and throw my controller across the room. So I certainly understand.
Would you pause and restart the game? Because that's what I do in NCAA.
I would pause, put it on rookie mode, and then save and quit, let it simulate to the end. That's how bad that throw was. I mean, I sit in 335 and I saw it coming 5 seconds before it happened. I thought I was in the future. But I would like to explain to the last gentleman who thinks Amy doesn't care. Football has a salary cap. And she has spent money. So, and the last I checked, the owners are for-profit people. They have a right to make a profit. I'm excited about the new stadium. The question I want to ask, and I think Professor Dyson astutely observed this, is Rand Carthon, or it might have been Zach, I forget. The decisions they make this offseason are what really interests me now. This is not a team devoid of talent. Anybody who thinks that is just, I don't know, not watching games with their eyes, and they're only watching with their frustration. Jeffrey Simmons is an all-pro player. He's a blue-chip player every year. Tavondre Sweat looks like he can grow into something. I think J.C. Latham's out of position, but I don't think he's a bad tackle. There's a lot to like about this team. There's just not enough good things happening. Mm-hmm. And what they do this offseason is going to speak volumes about how long Rand and BC are going to be around, because whether we want to admit it or not, you guys have probably already thought about this. Rand is tied to this coach. He won what was well reported as a power struggle with Mike Vrabel. If he goes down, Callahan's not long for the world. If Rand goes down, and I do believe very strongly that Amy wants a quality team to open that stadium. She doesn't want a 4-13 team to open that stadium. Just my 2 cents. Love going to the games. Love the team. Still going to support them. But my God, if we see Mayor Mayonnaise one more time, I'm going to lose my mind. There's no way he can come back in. He just can't. It's the Sam Darnold points you guys made were great. I hope for him and his well-being he figures it out, but he ain't going to figure it out here. And that's all I got. Thanks, guys. Appreciate all you do.
And that was Michigan.
Thanks for the call, Michigan.
Great call.
Michigan is getting rave reviews in the chat, by the way, in the F&M Bank chat on YouTube. Getting rave reviews. They say, get this caller a regular spot in the show. This caller getting analyst time, and I like it. So
keep on calling in Michigan.
Props to Michigan.
No, he made some very valuable points, and he's similar to myself in that half full guy. You try to find bright spots in a dark place. And the one thing he did say is, I've been saying this, I think Latham was put in left for a reason. They wanted to see if he can handle it, and I think it was a need. And he was probably the best tackle at that time that fit what they wanted to do, and he was moved from right to left.
Yeah, from what I've heard, it was Alt, Latham, and then everybody else. And that's just all positions, by the way.
And that's getting one of the best tackles in this year's draft. And that's why I said you cannot just rule out the possibility of getting somebody else that they move him back over to the other side. And he made another great point. I think Sweat could end up being a perennial Pro Bowler, so much so that Big Jeff's big number in a couple years might become a salary cap casualty because Sweat is playing so well. Similar to what happened to Jarrell Casey and him. You see what I'm saying? I think, again, I'm mentioning those two guys in particular because this was Rand's first draft by himself. Mm-hmm. And you got those first 2 picks who look like they potentially are going to be starters, if not Pro Bowler, All-Pro type guys, bearing injury. And we're so focused on the negative when, if you look at what we're talking about, the negatives in this, that wasn't even Rand.
Right.
He was a part of the draft that did Will Levis, but that wasn't necessarily his pick.
Yeah.
Right? He wasn't the one that dealt out the money to Harold Landry. Mm-hmm. Right? My point is saying is the jury's still out on the administration. I think this is to Michigan's point. Callahan is tied to Rand. So
I think that it's a great point when you really think about it. And listen, for those that think that Brian Callahan's a bad head coach, I think you're wrong. But I mean, that may be a negative for Rand Carthon. But I think that's why you see these two get another year together, because I think they are building something that we on the outside cannot see. Mm-hmm. But we do see certain progress. Like Peter Skoronski has really turned the corner under Bill Callahan at guard. Mm-hmm. Probably wouldn't have happened with Jason Hodolin, that, Mike Vrabel thought had the best, interview ever and gave him a job. Like, certain things are happening with the draft classes and all that kind of stuff. So I do think it's a good point, though, and more credit to Michigan in bringing that up again. But, we got to weigh that in when we're talking about job security. That's why I think they get another year. And if they fail next year, will you fire them both? It's pretty simple. Then you can just start all anew.
Let's think of a comparable franchise as far as they've been down the dumps for multiple years, and right now if they're not the best team in the NFL, they're right up there, 1 or 2. The Detroit Lions.
Mm-hmm. Currently down 28-14 in the third against the Bills.
And the Bills is another good football team.
Oh, yeah. Two of the best in the league.
But my point with the Lions is it's taking this long to get the right kind of mix from administration, head coach to building a team. How long has Campbell been there? This year 4 for him, right?
Year 1 was 2021.
Yeah,
for Dan Campbell.
This is year 4 for him, and it's again he's been able to go through some lean years and build this thing up in a way, and they see the vision through.
It all comes down to the quarterback. Mm-hmm. You have to find your quarterback.
And but they did though. Mm-hmm. They traded a potential Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
For a guy who had been to Super Bowl but was still widely considered
the reclamation project.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But they also got draft picks on top of that too.
Haul.
So like when you get the big old haul, that helps mitigate some of that.
Yeah.
And they have built out in the draft.
Yeah.
And they drafted Amon-Ra St. Brown instead of Des Fitzpatrick.
But the way they have done it has not been the conventional way. The conventional way of late has been, let's hurry up and do this right now. We got to win today. And that's why the Rams did what they did with Goff to go with trying to blank my man's guy's name.
With Stafford.
Matthew Stafford was to try to win a championship right then and there. The more established, the veteran quarterback that's put up gaudy numbers his whole career. And they went that route. Whereas Detroit Lions was like, we're going to build this thing and we're going to build something special. And when we get there, it's going to be special. And that's what you're seeing right now. You're seeing a team that probably has a good chance to go to the NFC in the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. And they built it. They endured probably the fan phone calls. They endured the analysts saying they're terrible. They endured the bags over their head, and look at him now.
Dan Campbell was the laughingstock his entire first season. And everybody thought they should get fired. The GM, the head coach. Why did you trade away Matt Stafford for Jared Goff?
Come on.
And all this stuff. I mean, it happens all the time.
Yeah. And then Matthew Stafford comes in his first year and plays in Detroit and beats the brakes off of him.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, the key difference, again, though, is they got their quarterback via trade, and they got a big old haul, and they had capital, and they spent that capital wisely. Cornerstone players across the board. So that's what that means. That's really the only way out, right, is to draft those guys that can come in and contribute for you on those rookie contracts, and you build a culture out that way. And that is obviously is what the Titans need to do in the coming years, but the needs are aplenty. 10-point loss at home to the Bengals today. We're up against it here. This is Titans Talkback presented by Lee Company. All you need, visit them online at leecompany.com. More of your phone calls when we come back on 104.5 The Zone. Titans Talkback is presented by Lee Company. All you need. Visit them online at leecompany.com. Welcome back alongside Dr. Kevin Dyson and Zach Lyons. I'm Lucas Panzica. 615-737-1045 is the number, and we are live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. 1045 The Zone TV. You can jump in on the F&M Bank chat. Appreciate you guys hanging with us through some of the technical issues that we had early on in the show, and a shout out to our producer, Jackson Williams, for getting us out of them. Quickly, before we go back to the phones, the Higginbotham right call of the game. We do this every week on Titans Talkback. Going with the Titans' first drive after the Luke Gifford interception, 6-play drive, 5 of the 6 plays were a handoff to Tony Pollard, who just hammered it in there for a touchdown. It felt like the Titans kind of remembered that sequence from the Jags game last week and said, let's just hand it off to number 20, and he just punched it in for the Titans to take the first lead. Higginbotham can be your business teammate by helping manage your risks, limit your liability, put a plan of action in place, and control your costs. Insurance plans for your company and your assets. It's all online at higginbotham.com. Tony Pollard left the game a little nicked up. He had been dealing with an ankle, was active, did end up coming back in. He finishes with 45 yards on 17 carries and the touchdown. And that takes us right to the Kellum science behind the stat. Will Levis sacked only once today, but had 4 turnovers, according to PFF/Zach Lyons. Will Levis was only under pressure on 15.4% of his dropbacks today, 2 of his 13 dropbacks. So we talked about it, guys. The turnover problem today, not necessarily an issue of pressure, which has been the case multiple times throughout the course of this season. That is the Kellum science behind the stat. From autism to arthritis, your body, your cells, your solution. Call 615-850-4415 for your consultation. So, back to the phone. 615-737-1045. Peter in Florida is up next. Go ahead, Peter.
Hey, how you doing?
What's going on, bro?
Good, man. What you got?
I ain't feeling good, my friend. You know, I've been a Titans fan, Titans fan since I moved to this country in 1978. During the preseason, saw Earl Campbell taking the ball, and I said, that's my team. Mm-hmm. So I've gone through a lot of ups and downs. And to me, this year, I'm just pissed in terms of the performance. You know, because Will Levis, to me, is not the answer. I honestly believe if Rudolph had started the game today, we would have won the game. You know, I know a lot of people, to them, they just want to, you know, they say, you know what, let's just throw the season. I don't want to throw, I mean, we're out of for the season, but I'd rather finish with a bang, being playoff spoilers. You understand? And I don't know I don't know if you guys agree with me, but I think this is my outlook on Will Levis, and I want you to listen to this. It's not that he's not a capable quarterback, but he's not an elite quarterback. And I think he has what I call the Ryan Tannehill syndrome, whereas they are unable to go through their progressions to find that open receiver. They just target a person, and even if they are double covered, triple covered, they want to show that they can make that pass. I rather a Tom Brady like quarterback than somebody who think they are better than who they are. That's my opinion. I'm just frustrated. I'm just totally frustrated.
Yeah, thank you for the call, Peter. A lot of folks are right there with you.
Yeah, I think frustration with the quarterback situation, or the people playing quarterback, I guess to say, is warranted. I agree with his assessment about the one reads and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, not sure I say that Ryan Tannehill is the same way, because, I mean, Ryan Tannehill had the best heights that you've seen of any Titans quarterback in 2019, 2020. I mean, I haven't seen quarterback play like that on a consistent basis. And you know, so but I get what he's trying to say. I just, you know, I have a hard time. We're talking 13 dropbacks, 1 sack, and 3 interceptions. That is why, and a fumble, and that is wild. That is unsustainable, and it just it reminds me so much of the Bears game. I don't know if I would agree that Mason Rudolph wins you this game. It's a more competitive game for sure, and maybe he does. But Mason Rudolph would have won you the Bears game, Jets game, the first 2 games out there. I mean, I think we all agree most quarterbacks probably in the league could have won you those games. Mm-hmm. It's just there's too many times. If you at a certain point when you say that many times about a quarterback in a season, there's another example of you got the answer and why he got benched.
Need to hit a break. This is Titans Talkback presented by Lee Company. The Titans trust their home stadium to Lee Company to tackle their HVAC, plumbing, and electrical problems. They can protect your home, too. Your next play, visit LeeCompany.com. Lee Company, all you need. We are going until 6:30, taking you right up until Westwood One pregame coverage of Sunday Night Football between Packers and Seahawks. So still plenty of time to get in here. 615-737-1045. More of your phone calls next on 1045 The Zone. 37-27, the final. Titans fall to the Bengals at home in Week 15 to drop to 3-11 on the season. And the 80th ever meeting between the two franchises. Cincinnati improves to 6-8. Alongside Dr. Kevin Dyson and Zach Lyons, I'm Lucas Panzica. We're with you until 6:30. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in as we go back to the phones with Mark, who is in Murfreesboro, chiming in. Hey, Mark.
Hey. So, get right to it. Yeah, Levis is not the guy. He is not the guy. He panics. It's clear night and day with how Burrow played. Burrow steps up in the pocket, keeps his eyes down the field. And I think I've only seen Levis do that once, was maybe 3 games ago where he hit Ridley on the left rolling out. But also a lot of people forget that our defense has taken a lot of hits. You know, with Jones leaving early with the play of Levis, caused that to happen. We started getting rid of players like D-Hop with the play of Levis. But then also, you know, we lost Gibbons, which was a very, very important piece. He used to be a green dot last year, I believe. That didn't have anything to do with Levis. But, you know, we just taken a lot of hits on defense as well. And I'll let the other guys call in, but that's my take. Levis is not the guy.
Hey, thanks for the call, Mark. We've spent a lot of time today talking about Levis, but on the defensive side, they were really thin at linebacker today, guys. No Jerome Baker. Kenneth Murray was healthy, but left the game for a period and came back in. Luke Gifford left the game with a concussion. And you often had Cedric Gray and James Williams, a couple rookies out there in the middle of the defense. But overall, what were the takeaways on the defensive performance? Titans allowed 370 yards and 30 points because 7 came off of a pick 6. And obviously Bengals scored 24 off of turnovers.
They generated some turnovers. But again, let me give them a crutch right quick. This Bengals offense has been like this to everybody. It hasn't mattered whether you're top 10 defense or bottom 10 defense. They have been demoralizing defenses across the NFL. Their defense hasn't just been able to stop anybody and do the things. Well, they didn't stop nobody really today. I mean, they created some turnovers, and some of those turnovers were created because the quarterback made poor decisions, poor throws, et cetera, or in the fumble, and then the coach got the pick 6. So they have one of the best offenses in the game. However, the Titans defense was able to create some turnovers, get after Burrow, but I think Zach said it way back in the first segment. They weren't able to close the deal. I think with a quarterback like Burrow, it's one thing to get by him. You had to get to him. You had to disrupt him, make him uncomfortable, get him on the ground, bump him around a lot. I don't even know how many quarterback hits they had today, aside from only having 1 sack. You had to bump him around a little bit. He's a guy who's been hurt on multiple occasions. His knee, just got robbed while he was playing, you know. But he showed his skill set, his ability to escape the pocket and feel pressure. But defensively, it was almost like a low B, high C grade.
Yeah, I think I pretty much agree with you. It's tough because you're talking about a team that generated 4 turnovers, but they only got 1 sack. 6 quarterback hits, to answer your question. So they got 6 quarterback hits, but one of those quarterback hits ended up being a touchdown to T. Higgins, if I'm not mistaken.
No, sure was.
Yeah, which was off of a turnover from
right.
Levis.
Yeah. So you look at their time possession. The Titans won time of possession. At one point, I look up. I think it's somewhere in the third quarter because I only see the Bengals with 1 drive versus 3 drives for the Tennessee Titans. But I look up and it's like, man, the Titans have 7 more minutes of time possession. That gap got closed because there was a 5 minute and 41. Their last drive was 5 minute and 41 seconds. And they got the ball with 6:50 to go in the fourth quarter, gave the ball back to the Tennessee Titans with after scoring a touchdown from the Tennessee 5. So in the red zone, 1:09 left to the thing. So like to me, it's like they can never get the real meaningful stops. And maybe at this point we can't really call that stop meaningful, but they scored a touchdown, right? You came down and scored a touchdown to end the game. Think about how much that would have changed maybe the strategy of the game if you were able to make a stop with 5 minutes 41 during that time possession.
Yeah.
And there's still red zone defensive issues. So while the defense played really well in some aspects, there are still obvious flaws to this scheme, to this entire defense that kind of pops up from here to there. But because the offense and particularly the quarterback looked so bad, it's hard to put blame on the Tennessee Titans defense. But I'm with you objectively, probably I'd say B-.
Yeah.
Which is good enough to win you games in the NFL, and it was good enough against the Bengals for the most part.
Well, it wasn't good on third down. That's probably the most glaring thing.
I forgot about that.
The
That's
Bengals
another
were,
thing.
10 of 13 on third down. But with that said, 4 turnovers. The Titans came into this game having forced 12.
Yeah.
So a quarter of the turnovers, a quarter of their takeaways on the season in 14 games happened today. And that gave you enough of a chance to win. But anytime you allow 24 points off of turnovers, you're not going to win that. You're just not going to win that game.
Right.
It makes it near impossible to find a way to win. It hardly gives you a chance. So, yeah, I think I'm with you guys. And some depth issues there, too. Some injuries stacking up at the linebacker core. Situationally, it felt like they weren't great today, but ultimately probably good enough.
There's just stuff in those Commanders games, the Green Bay game, a lot of games where you're just kind of like, man, this defense is really getting a little pushed around a lot. Mm-hmm. And there were certain drives in this game where it felt like they weren't getting pushed around, I guess, because the run game wasn't, that amazing or anything. And that's really what you think about when pushed around. But it seemed like if the Bengals needed some big chunk play, they had it if they needed it.
615-737-1045. This is Titans Talkback, presented by Lee Company. All you need. Visit them online at leecompany.com. We go to Larissa up next on The Zone. Hey, Larissa.
Hey, guys. How are you?
Doing good. How are you?
Outstanding. Happy holidays to everyone, all the listeners, and
Same to you.
all that good stuff. But I have to, my opinion, very humble opinion, everything that we do in life is psychological. It's not what happens, it's how we respond to it. And my opinion, again, just my opinion. And it seems like some of the guys may be in their fields because they don't lack the talent, clearly, because otherwise they wouldn't be professional athletes, And it's like something has got them shook. And you guys just mentioned, the quarterback, he got robbed. He got robbed last week, but he was still able to do his job. So I'm just wondering what has shaken some of the guys on the team, and is Levis part of it? Did he get hit really hard one day, and then he hasn't been able to come back from it? I'm open to opinions because obviously I have mine, but it just seems like something has shook them to the point, to their core, that they've kind of given up psychologically. I don't know. And I do apologize if I've offended anybody.
No, thank you for the call, Larissa.
I really do think there's a level of happy feetness with Will Levis from his shoulder being hurt, being hit multiple times this year, being sacked, one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the NFL. I think there's a level of that. I think there's also a level of lack of confidence in your decision-making and delivery of the football. Who knows what's being said to him in these meetings? I think it goes to what you were talking about earlier, Zach, as far as what he says in his pressers, the mental aspect of the game. I think there's a lot more to that we're not giving a lot of credence to. I think there is some stuff he needs to iron out and work through emotionally and probably mentally, because you don't have time right now. And when you're the franchise, the quarterback of an NFL franchise, he can't go to the store without somebody saying something. He can't turn the radios without somebody saying something. He can't turn on ESPN or the news or TV without somebody saying something, because, the guy said something about Mayo, something. Like, that's part of his life now. And if you don't learn to overcome that adversity or that negative speak, you're just going to continue to go in the tank and second-guess yourself, second-guess your judgments, second-guess your throws, not have confidence with your throws. One thing you can say like Steph Curry. Steph Curry keeps shooting. Even if he's off, he keeps shooting. Why? The confidence level. And he has confidence in his game, confidence in the shot that's going to come back. I can't say that about Will Levis right now. He don't have confidence in his shot right now. I think he's so worried about what's being said about him that is defensive passively, right? He's giving you, this is why I struggled today. I didn't get to my read, the mental aspects of the game.
I did want to ask you, Dice, because Levis had a quote in his post-game presser. The question was, what did the guys say to you on the sideline? And when you go back in the locker room to keep your head up, did you hear some of that post-game? He said, yeah, it's kind of a weird feeling when guys are trying to kind of console you and you're saying, I don't want to hear that, man. I'm like, whatever. But it was good to hear from just some guys on the team, people in our organization, come talking to me, making sure I keep my head up, and that it's not something that's going to affect me further. So I appreciated that, and I know I'm going to come back tomorrow the same person and keep swinging. I saw one Titans reporter talking to NWI in the locker room with Nick saying that he needs to just have a talk with Will Levis. So if you're a receiver in that locker room, how do you handle that? Let's say you're an established guy, a veteran on that team. Do you take it upon yourself in any way? Does it depend on your stature in terms of your experience? How would Kevin Dyson handle a moment like this where it seems as though your quarterback is shaking a little bit?
So that's hard, right? Because at the same time, you don't know what the coaches are thinking. You don't know what the administration is thinking. Is he going to be our quarterback for Sunday? I think guys right now drove home after the game uncertain who's going to be on the center at quarterback round. They can make an assumption that they're going to move the Rudolph based on what happened, but you just don't know because sometimes decisions are made economically as opposed to productively, right? They make decisions of, no, this guy is getting paid XYZ dollars. He needs to be in the game. He needs to figure some things out, or we need to put him on advertisement that he can play so we can do something with him later. So that is hard from a veteran standpoint when ultimately we get paid to play. It's not my decision. We just understand the psyche of a professional athlete and how gingered that can be, how sensitive that can be because of this opportunity is so small. And like, look, man, it's hard. You got to keep your head up, stay confident. This might not be the opportunity for you. It might be the next one. You know what I mean? It's one of those things because it's a small fraternity, right? And it really is. But we also in the business of production and winning. And if you're not productive and you're not winning, that's going to get piled on, and especially being the quarterback of a franchise.
More of your phone calls when we come back. This is Titans Talkback presented by Lee Company. All you need, visit them online at leecompany.com. More calls coming up next on 104.5 The Zone. The Titans trust their home stadium to Lee Company to tackle their HVAC, plumbing, and electrical problems. They can protect your home, too. Your next play, visit LeeCompany.com. Lee Company, all you need. Welcome back to Titans Talkback, presented by Lee Company. Dr. Kevin Dyson, Zach Lyons, and Lucas Panzica with you. Jackson Williams is our producer. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in as the late afternoon kickoffs are into the fourth quarter at this point. Buffalo pulling away from Detroit, a 17-point lead early in the fourth. So Detroit looks set, barring a big-time comeback, to lose for the first time since week 2. I guess it had to happen at some point. And Indianapolis down 24-13 to the Broncos. The Colts were leading that whole game, and Denver scored with a Bo Nix touchdown pass to cut the lead, or to take the lead, 17-13, and then a 50-yard scoop and score gave the Broncos a 24-13 lead.
Anthony Richardson's stat line, 9 of 23, 84 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. The Anthony Richardson roller coaster has way higher highs and way lower lows than the Will Levis roller coaster at this point.
I'm saying, which one would you rather have? I'd say at the beginning of the year, when you start rating the quarterbacks within a division, right? Because you got to win your division to get in the playoffs for the most part. Like, where would you rank him? Stroud's clearly still got the stronghold. You know, he's having a pedestrian season compared to he did his rookie year. Like, it's not as prolific as he did his rookie year, but he's still having a decent year. After him, who's the quarterback you would want in this division?
From that draft class? Oh, in the division.
In the division. Because Lawrence is injured, but still, would he be your next?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely Trevor Lawrence, even though he has not had
I think Trevor Lawrence could kill in this offense.
Okay, then
because I do think that while Trevor Lawrence has had his struggles and it's not just wide receiver drops, I do think there is something to Doug Peterson and Press Taylor's offense I just don't like.
That's not meshing.
Yeah.
So then who's next?
Mac Jones?
You played pretty well today.
I like you. I like how you dodged that one.
You might be right, too.
You might be right. Yeah, you might be right.
He played pretty well today in the last second loss to the Jets.
But it'd probably be Levis, then Richardson, right?
Yeah.
It's close.
And we're ready to get rid of him.
It almost feels like a push between the two of those. It has been quite the experience.
I think Anthony Richardson has the better offensive line and the better pass catchers, and he's still doing this. Yeah. So I think I would have to say, I would probably still take Will Levis in this Tennessee Titans system.
Offense. Yeah, and there's no hesitation. They've already said he's back, and he's the guy.
Yeah. Richardson.
He's also a first-round draft pick, and also the Colts are kind of weird that way. They think they're very infallible, and their crap don't smell.
Yeah.
So.
Top 5 draft pick, Anthony Richardson.
Yeah. But that does make a difference, too.
If the Colts do not mount a comeback now, down 24-13, to beat the Broncos with 11:48 to go in the fourth, the Houston Texans will be your 2024 AFC South champions, officially. Also, the Eagles leading the Steelers 27-13 in the Battle of Pennsylvania. Eagles looking for a 10th consecutive win. Bucks routing the Chargers at SoFi Stadium at the moment. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. Let's go to Cynthia up next. Hey, Cynthia.
Hey. The lady that was on before me was talking about the psychological part about playing out there in the field. As far as, like, the team being together mentally, I know that's something that we really need to work on, because it's like they get out there and everybody's doing their own little tiny part, but not as a whole, you know? And, that's probably one of the things that gets in the back of the mind of Levis, because he's kind of like by himself, if you know what I'm saying. It's like the mental, putting everybody together and the whole action being fulfilled by the whole team as a whole is not there. I don't see it.
Thanks for the call, Cynthia.
Do you get that feeling? I've seen a lot of people talk about this, and Blaine doesn't really. Brad Hopkins didn't really. I want to get a third player's perspective, see if we can make a clean sweep here. But do you get a sense that these guys aren't, fighting for each other and playing for each other? I mean, I get what everybody's saying maybe about Will Levis, but I think this seems like a Will Levis issue that we have now taken and put on everybody issue.
I have never, ever been in a locker room where guys said, I'm not playing hard today. I've never yet to see it, especially in football, because you just can't afford to. Everything you do is scrutinized. You're watched. Tape is passed. Coaches move from team to team. They recycle coaches, and unlike any other league, maybe the NBA might be comparable, where they recycle guys and he gets fired and he gets another job the next week at another franchise. They will continue to battle. Now, here's the other thing. I think what you run the worry of is guys overplaying, trying to make up for lack of production from somebody else, or I want to get some stats or things of that nature, but not playing for that guy next to you. I have never, ever heard of that in a professional locker room, and in team sports in general, but professional locker room. But like, I'll give you an example of something where may happening where you like, God, these dudes are just not. A guy he's supposed to have a gap responsibility. That's where he goes, but the easy route is go back the other way, and he creates a gap where he should have been to make a play, and he put his guy behind him in a bad position. That stuff happens because guys start overplaying or become selfish, but not playing for somebody. I've never seen that or heard that.
The only cases are extreme, right? Yeah. Vic Beasley here, it was a case of that. I mean, that has been well documented at this point.
But that was a personal thing with him. And there was another guy, defensive end, that had like some personal issues.
Kevin Dodd.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and then the most extreme example that I think any of us have seen, Devondre Campbell. Just the other day on Thursday, Niners turned to him, asked him to come in, and he refuses to play.
And the players really, well, don't forget Anthony Richardson, tapping out, but their own teammates on both those situations.
But I would guess in those cases, yes. But I'm thinking about when I'm out there and I'm playing, like
the ones that are actually out there.
Yeah. But to those cases, those are. A lot of that's mental health issues, right?
And a lot of that's very few and far between, to your point. And the overall point is, I never get the sense this team isn't trying hard or isn't putting out the effort on the field. Just sometimes your effort's not good enough as the guy that you in your one-on-one matchup on the other side of the field.
It's just better than you sometimes that you're out playing.
I mean, it's not like people weren't trying to cover Randy Moss, but sometimes you just go up against Randy Moss.
Exactly. And it's not like people are trying to shut down Mahomes.
Right.
He just somehow makes plays.
They're just not a good football team right now.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I think that's just as simple as you can put it. And when you talk about the talent on this team, relative to even wild card teams with a winning record right now, this is not a very talented football team right now. I mean, how many players on this team that were drafted by this team would you say are in the top 25, 30% at their respective position? Right? I mean, there was a reason why they went out and spent more money than anybody in the NFL, and arguably the most talented player they went and spent money on and acquired, and Snead, has barely played this season.
Or Ridley.
And Ridley's had his struggles at times as well. So, a lot of times the answers can boil down to they're just not a very good football team right now.
Yeah.
And today, the turnovers were just untenable, and they were not able to overcome
it. To your point, who would you put in as top 25, 30% at their position on this roster?
I'd put Big Jeff. Amani Hooker.
Okay.
Tony Pollard.
Okay.
And these are guys that are healthy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think Skoronski's getting up there. He may not be there yet, but he's very close.
Yeah.
But that is about it. Like, I wouldn't put even Harold Landry up there.
Nick Folk.
He's had a great year. Kicker. I wouldn't put the punter up there. Morgan Cox.
Yes,
long snapper.
Definitely Morgan Cox. Definitely Morgan Cox.
But, that's the thing. Is that then you
named one draft pick.
Yeah. And L'Jarius Sneed would be that guy, but he's not playing.
Yeah.
He's injured.
Or two draft picks.
And so you get into that situation where, this team has a lot of youth to it. They're the third youngest team. The snap counts happening right now for this team. They are the third youngest team with contributing players.
Yeah.
So that's just going to be part of the growing pains of everything involved. First time defensive play caller. First time offensive head coach.
Yeah.
First time special teams coordinator. It's going to be a lot of growth there. They have a lot of depth on that coaching staff filled with veterans. Tyke Tolbert, Randy Johnson, Bo Hardigree has been around for a while. Now, he's young, but he's been around for a while. But Bill Callahan.
Yeah.
I mean, Brian Callahan has been around for a long time, too, but this is the first time in a new position. So they're not devoid of talented coaches on this staff. That's why it's very hard for me to pin this solely on a head coach or solely on the coaches.
Yeah.
We got a lot of people saying that this Brian Callahan is a soft head coach and all this stuff in the YouTube chat. There's a lot of people that just blame Brian Callahan, and it's easier to blame one person than a lot of people.
Well, that comes
and I get
with
that.
being the quarterback head coach,
and that's part of the territory, right?
Yeah.
But honestly, today is on Will Levis. I mean, there's just no other way around it. Yeah, like last week was on Will Levis.
Yeah,
it's just like week one on Will Levis.
I agree with Zach. I think the two rookies from this class have potential to hop up in there if Sweat's not already. I think Latham is still young, and I think he's still getting comfortable playing that left side, but he has showed promise. But I think Sweat is in that conversation and being a top 25, top 30% at his position.
That play today was fun to watch. Again, I've not had more fun watching a single Titans play at Nissan Stadium all year than watching T'Vondre Sweat throw a stiff arm and go rumbling with 30-something yards.
I'd be curious to see what the other players think of him, like the guys going against him, the other offensive line. I bet you he's in that conversation of hardest guys to block consistently. Just like Jarrell Casey was, just like Big Jeff is now. He's a guy that you kind of deal with for the next few years. He's going to get paid, whether it's here or somewhere else. He's going to get his money because he's a very good run stopping, and he can get out the quarterback a little bit, but he's a very, very good run stopper and interior lineman.
Last chance to get in here, 615-737-1045. We'll wrap things
calls.
up. Got a few more calls to get to. So jump in. Titans lose 37-27 to the Cincinnati Bengals at home. We'll wrap things up. It is Titans Talkback, presented by Lee Company on 104.5 The Zone. Final segment, Titans Talkback, presented by Lee Company. All you need. Visit them online at leecompany.com. Wrapping things up, Titans lose 37-27 to fall to 3-11 on the year. Alongside Dr. Kevin Dyson and Zach Lyons, I'm Lucas Panzica. Quickly, before we go back to the phones, we look ahead to next week's opponent in the Look Ahead presented by Eurofix. Let me remind you, Eurofix repairs everything European that you drive and below dealer pricing. ASC certified technicians, a local company that has serviced Middle Tennessee for over 2 decades. Visit EurofixOnline.com. Next week, the Titans head to Lucas Oil Stadium to take on the Colts. They'll look to avenge a 20-17 loss back in Week 6 at Nissan Stadium. Guys, the Colts down 24-13 with 5:54 to go to the Broncos. If Denver can close this out, the Texans will be crowned AFC South champs, and the Colts will fall to 6-8. And it has been a tough day. You speak of, we talk about Titans turnovers, 10 total turnovers in the Titans-Bengals game, 8 in this Colts-Broncos game, 5 by Indianapolis, 2 interceptions thrown by Anthony Richardson, 12 of 29, 119 yards and no touchdowns. And the Colts, the vibes won't be great between both of those teams next week at Lucas Oil Stadium.
I mean, it's a winnable game, but I think the more interesting thing surrounding this game is whether or not that Brian Callahan's going to come up, tomorrow at his post-game presser after looking at the film and declare that Will Levis is a starter. And if he doesn't, and if he says, well, we'll see how it all shapes out, then I think you guys kind of know that tells you a lot. I mean, you just got done watching the entire film of the game, and you still couldn't come out behind a certain quarterback, whether that is Will Levis or Mason Rudolph. I think that tells you it's a lot more up in the air than what maybe some people that are still clinging as Will Levis truthers may think.
I agree. I think I'll be interested to see what he says tomorrow after the emotions of another terrible loss, the way he lost. It just happened. I think it's hard. It's hard for coaches and players to get up there in that podium and take the barrage of questions and not be emotional. Whether people realize or not, they're competitive. Yeah, they're getting paid a king's ransom to play a kid's game, but highly competitive. You don't get to that level by not being competitive. And then to have a microphone and phones and devices thrown in your face and answer this question, it sometimes can be difficult because you hadn't had a chance to process it, you know, and then here you are answering questions. And I think that was part of what Callahan was at today. I think he's tired of asking it. I think he's tired of having to answer to it, to what he's going to do. And I think he's going to he probably is watching it tonight. He's probably in his office right now watching film, trying to figure out how he's going to respond tomorrow. If this is the way we're going to go, he's going to talk to his coaches first thing in the morning, and they're going to evaluate and make whatever move that is, that's what they're going to make. I think him and Rand are in conversations. They were talking on the way from the stadium. I think Amy Adams is also a part of this conversation. I think you got 3 games left to do something for the fans, for your organization going forward. Identify what you want to do for the draft and free agency. You got 3 games left, and they are important 3 games as any going forward. And I think callers have said it today as the stadium is opening up as to what they would like to see going forward. And I think that is part of the conversation for the fans and what they want to do and what they want to see.
31-13, Broncos just scored. Cortland Sutton with a touchdown catch from Bo Nix. Nix's 3rd touchdown pass of the day, and the Colts almost certainly will be going into that matchup with the Titans at 6-8. Both Shane Steichen and Brian Callahan might be answering questions about their quarterback situation come the Monday press conference. Last couple phone calls to squeeze in for the day. Luke is up next. Hey, Luke.
Hey, so to kind of springboard on Larissa, I hope I got her name right, and Cynthia, there's a big mental aspect that's not being addressed. Doc, when Ray Lewis basically split Steve McNair in half, the rest of that team stepped up. I'm not seeing that.
Thanks for the call.
Tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the team is trying to step up. I think that's the difference. I think the difference between, a Steve McNair team, back in the day, the talent level is wildly in favor of those teams.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference. I think I think that's what we were trying to hit home is like the effort is there, but the skill level may not be there to some of these other teams. And this is a better offensively driven team that you're going up against. So the defense is trying to make stops. They've gotten interceptions and touchdowns. Chigakonkwo was trying to make plays. You know, he's busting tackles. Everybody who caught a ball was trying to get tackles and yards after the catch. So, I mean, to say that they weren't trying or that I think at the end of the day, there's just sometimes it's trying doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. Hey, I'm going to say this, and I hope it's going to come off like a crutch. So I'm just going to say it. I'm not intending it to be that way. But we forget this roster was built by JR and Vrabel mindset. Rand has tried to flip it to meet his coach and his mindset, try to be more offensive minded, where Vrabel was more of a 3-down, ball control, running offense, hence had one of the best running backs to play the game, at least in the past decade for sure, right? And Derrick Henry, and play solid defense behind it, possession football, one possession game type football, old school, if you want to call it old school football. And that was the fans' beef, right? That was everybody's beef. We're in these close games, and this is the NFL. You need to put the ball in the air. You got to score 30 points. And, so nobody was happy when they were playing 3 yards in a cloud of dust football. But you bring in a more of an offensive guy, more of a putting the ball in the air, more prolific type offensive mindset with the trend of what the NFL is right now. And yet you still got to build that up. You still have to find the right kind of pieces that match what your philosophy is. And again, I gave the example of Detroit Lions, and that's what they have begun to do. Now, I don't know if it's going to take year 1, year 2, year 3, free agency, another draft class. That remains to be seen. But again, remember, we're flipping the whole mindset from one regime to another. Again, I'm not giving a crutch. I'm just giving the evidence.
Well, and it's all really reliant on quarterback play, and they haven't gotten that for the most part this season.
That too.
Really quick, Rick, if you could make it speedy for us, we're going to squeeze you in here. Last call of the day. What you got?
Y'all watch every game, analyze every game. Y'all just bought the Tennessee Titans from Amy. What's the first three things you would do with the Titans?
Thanks for the call, Rick. All right, quickly, let's go. 1, 2, 3. Zach, KD, Zach, what do we got?
Benching Levis for sure. Probably my goal right now would be to sign Sam Darnold.
Ooh, after that, I got to get offensive line.
Go get a right tackle. All right. Yep. And then draft a pass rusher. There you go. You fix the team. Problem is, it's hard to do all that in one fell swoop. Yep. So, Titans are 3-11. They fall today 37-27 to the Cincinnati Bengals at home. We're going to have all week long on 104.5 The Zone to talk about it ahead of next Sunday's game in Week 16, Titans at Colts, in an AFC South battle. Appreciate you guys being with us today. Reminder that Titans radio coverage is produced by Philip Noel and Brad Willis. The studio producer is Joseph Bonanno. The scoreboard producer is me, Lucas Panzica. Promotions director Rich Ferris. Director of sales Hunter Rice. General manager Allison Warren. The operations manager is Paul Mason. And the executive producer of Titans radio is Rhett Bryan. For Dr. Kevin Dyson and Zach Lyons and our producer Jackson Williams, thank you guys for being with us. This has been Titans Talkback, presented by Lee Company on 104.5 The Zone.